Let's look at another example that we also use the zero coupon bond as the numeraire. So in this case, we pick this derivative asset to be a particular derivative asset, a forward contract. Before, when we were talking about this F here is just a generic derivative contract. It can be any derivative asset. So here we want to make this a forward contract and see how that works. So if this is a forward contract, this F is a forward contract, and we have a F naught, which is the forward price of the forward contract at time 0. The small f naught is the value of the forward contract at time 0. So they're different. Okay, those two are different. This is the forward price of the forward contract at time 0. This is the value of that forward contract at time 0. The value of forward contract at time 0 at the initiation of the forward contract is actually 0. But this price, the forward price, is not 0. Now that's typically it's not 0. So you can set it up this way, very consistent to what we have had earlier, right? So what is the expected value here? The expected value of ft. Well, the expected value of ft is really the expected value of the realized forward price at time, the maturity time t, minus the initial forward price. So that's where the payoff is. And you have the expected payoff or the expected value out of that forward contract. And since F naught is a constant, really comes to the expected value of the for F the forward price at maturity time. What is the expected forward price at the maturity time minus the initial forward price is the expected payoff. Now, if we put it back to this expression here, since F naught is 0, the initial value of a forward contract is 0, that means what's in this bracket must be 0. So if there's 0, that means the expected forward price at maturity is just initial forward price. Okay, so this is where you hear the expression, the expected forward price at maturity is just the initial forward price. Well, actually, you don't have to have this being the maturity. This big T is just any time greater than 0. So at any future time after the initial time, this forward price that you set at time T is just expected value of any other time that greater than 0. So it can be a time prior to maturity as well, but certainly because it's true for any time greater than t, it's certainly true for the maturity time at t as well. Now, that expectation, when people are talking about expectation, sometimes they don't really refer to what expectation. So in here, we really, have to be really careful when we learn the equivalent martingale measures, because the expectation here is really related to using a zero coupon bond as the numeraire. Okay, so you have to be really, really careful when we talk about expectation or expected value. What does it really mean? Before, we need to differentiate between the expected value under the real world and expected value under the risk neutral world. Here, after we've talked about equivalent martingale measures, then they're more than that, right? So every time when we say expected value, so we have to say, what numeraire asset that we have used, and then for the property measure to be consistent with that numeric asset.